In this tutorial, we'll show you how to use a for loop in a macro. If you go into the Scribble session for Lab 4, we have a for loop tab down here. This is the document. I've included the text that we'll be using for this for loop, just so you don't have to type it in individually. So that is all here, and we're going to go in and create a new macro, which we've just recorded macros. Now we'll show you how to go in and create a new one. So if you go into the top tabs here under Developer, this is where we'll find the macros. Under macros, we just want to double click there, and currently it's empty, so we're going to go in and create a new one. If I type in for loop, it gives me the option to create one. We'll do that. Now when this comes up, it gives me the name of my program and then end here, and I got to put in the middle all the stuff that I would like to include there. So we'll go ahead and go back to the Excel document here, and we're going to just cut and copy and paste this. So hit Control C to copy. Make sure to hit Escape. That gets you out of the cell so you can go back into your document for the macro in Visual Basic. So just click in between there, and we're going to hit Control V. That's going to include all the text that we need in between there. So if we look through what each of these are doing, I'll go through these very quickly. This part's going to select the sheet that we want to go to. So this is sheet number 1, and then we're going to go to range A4. That's going to move it down to cell A4 to get us past the text that's in there. And then this is our for loop. This entire part down from 4 down to next, that's going to include a for loop. That for loop goes from iterating from 1 to 10, and it'll go through in increments of 1, and it'll go through this process that number of times. So it's going to set value I is equal to the value I, and then it's going to go to sheet 1 again, and then it's going to go to the active cell is equal to value 1, whatever it was set to up here, and then we're going to move the cursor here. If you have any questions about what any of these are doing, the syntax for these commands, you can always go back to the first tab here, and you can look at the commands we have, the syntax, and a few notes that I've put down. Should help you out with some of the syntax there. So coming back, we can see that everything's done here, so we're going to hit Save. Okay, now make sure when you save, this is already saved as an XLSM, so this is macro enabled. On yours, it may give you a warning there, so you want to make sure that it is enabled as macros. Do that same thing on your labs as well, so that all the functionality of the macros comes through, and we can grade you accordingly. So once you've saved that, go ahead and exit out of it. Going back to our for loop here, and we want to go ahead and run that macro. So I will go ahead, go into here, select for loop, and hit run. Now we're going to see that there is an error here. I purposely put in an error, so let's go see if we can find it. So we'll go ahead and end this rather than debugging. Let's just see if we can find it from within the macro. So to get back in there, select for loop, and then we'll edit. That'll bring up the Visual Basic screen again. So again, selecting my sheet, the range, and then my for loop here, you're going to find that the error is right here in sheet 1. If you look back in here, oops, there is no sheet 1. We have a command, for loop, if statement, declaring variables, and user form. So we need to change this to the value that we want, and we want to do for loop. So we'll do that there, and realize as well you need to do it here as well. Once those are selected, hit save again. So we just edited that, and this time we will go ahead and run and see if it works. And sure enough, it did. You can see that for loop, what it did is it, starting in cell A4, put in 1 because value I was set to 1 in the beginning of the for loop, moved the cursor down 1, placed 2 in there, and each iteration of the for loop moves the cursor as well as incrementing the number up 1. So this would be for just moving those down. Now let's go in and edit one more thing to show you some options. If I edit this, if I were to change this value here on the offset, we'll ask ourselves what's going to happen here. Just a simple adjustment there. Hit save and kill out of that, and we'll come back here, and I will run the macro again. And this time you can see that instead of moving straight down, it's going to move diagonal because the offset is one cell down and one cell over. So that's just a beginning look at for loops, very handy for doing several iterations of data.